This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hello, everybody. It is May 12th, Monday. Welcome to Pop Daily, PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino. To all the moms out there, hopefully you had a fantastic Mother's Day. It was a gorgeous day on tap. Some things happening today. Order of business to get out of the way. Andrew Cuomo, we were wondering if he was going to get matching funds from the Campaign Finance Board. Obviously, he had some trouble getting that matching funds in the early months when they were doing matching funds. But today they made their announcement that he did. So it's the first time he is getting the matching funds. Our Henry Rossoff covering all the latest on that. We'll talk about it later in the week as well as we continue to talk about the race for mayor. Don't forget, you got to register to vote, right? If you want to vote in a primary in New York City, you have to register for a party, Democrat or Republican, to vote in a primary. You cannot do that if you are not registered. So just a heads up. Those dates are coming up to make sure that you are registered. All right, other big issues that we're closely following. Can you believe, once again, that Newark Airport over in New Jersey had an outage this weekend? Now, they've been struggling, right, with these FAA, with these outages that are creating problems for air traffic controllers who can't see planes that are coming in and out of the airport. It's creating a bit of a safety problem, right? But how did we get to this point in time? How did we get to this moment where there are these issues? Not only with that, with air traffic controllers walking off the job. Newark Airport has a runway that's closed. They moved some technology over to Philadelphia. There's a lot to discuss. So Greg Mocker, he's our resident transportation expert. Let's bring him into the conversation here. Greg, good to see you. I know you're out on the road right now. You're in Queens. You're covering a story, so that's why you're out and about. But it's good to see you.
Yes, always good to see you and talk about transportation. I did take the subway to get here, up on the 7 from work up to the end line to get to Astoria. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, hopefully that was a smoother commute than what people are having issues with over at Newark Airport. So let's talk about it, right? There's so many different facets to the story. There is obviously this runway that was shut down for ongoing construction. But then you bring in these outages, and that's what people are really concerned about, right? Because nobody wants to hear that a computer goes black, and that's where the roadmap is for these aircraft that are coming into an airport, right? So kind of walk us through what happened here.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary thing. I fly out of Newark all the time. Whenever I go plan a trip, I always look at LaGuardia and JFK. I'm sure a lot of people do that, see what our options are. So just to know that that's going on there, that just changed the way that I'm looking to the summer to go see my parents somewhere. It's really something that we need them to address. And it has been addressed. I think it's at a point now at a very high level of red alert point. We have not only the infrastructure repairs that need to be done there with the runway, which has affected some of the communications of the kind of the way that things run there. It's also an old system, so we have the age, and then I think on top of that we also have the lack of staffing. The air traffic controller issue has been something that we've talked about before. I've reported on it. There's Vaughn College in Queens, which helps train air traffic controllers. We were there. I think it's the combination of all of these things that we see this. We see it reach this kind of breaking point. And I follow along with what the secretary has talked about at his press conferences. He says the Trump administration is on it. They want to create a new one. And that's something that I want to hear, both as a reporter and as a traveler.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow traveler myself, I fly to Newark all the time. And it's something that Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, is blaming, though, is the Biden administration, saying that they didn't help with the shortage of air traffic controllers. So I don't know how much you can talk about this, Greg, but from my understanding, an air traffic controller, once they get their certification to be one, they can't just automatically go to Newark Airport. They have to go to a smaller hub and then kind of make their way up the food chain back to Newark Airport. So if tomorrow they say, hey, we're going to hire 250 air traffic controllers, that doesn't mean the problem's solved over at Newark Airport.
Yeah, the pipeline is always something, and we hear about that with all kinds of government officials or employees that have to be trained and moved around. I think this was acknowledged during the Biden administration. There's things that they did and that you can do to make the job more attractive, to get people to sign on. I think they were also moving people around and changed some way that the Newark airspace is kind of overseen. I guess that's a word to use for it. But when I heard that this was happening at Newark, I wasn't surprised, but I certainly was alarmed, just because it seems like it's at a point now where a lot of the issues have now got to the point where it's not an option just to kind of reconfigure things or try to get more people on the job or to train more people. It's at a point where infrastructure too, the old copper wires I keep hearing about, a system from decades ago, the infrastructure improvements along with the people need to be addressed.
Well, that's what's mind-boggling, Greg, right? Because in some of these cases, I don't know if it was the most recent from this week or last week, the reason why the screens went black is because somebody unplugged something, right? And it just seems like there should be some sort of safety mechanism in place for if somebody were to unplug something manually, that the whole system wouldn't go down. But do you have knowledge of what exactly happened with some of the technology that was moved? It was at the hub, right? They used to have air traffic controllers that were in Long Island, in Westbury. And then those folks got moved to Philadelphia, all to work out of Newark, right? So, but the technology, there was something, an issue there where it failed to get from Long Island over to Philly to keep people in Newark in the know. It seems complicated. It seems confusing.
Yeah, but then ultimately it can come down to something as simple as this didn't get moved or something can get unplugged. I don't know the specifics of the air traffic control system, but from reporting on the MTA or from any other kind of system that relies on old technology, sometimes they're making the parts in-house. They're rewiring things because of the technicians who have been on the job for a long time. So people are stretched to their limit, and they're still trying to show up and do their best. So I would think that so many fronts to address this on, the personnel front and the technology front too.
Yeah, I mean, we had Clint Henderson on from the Points guys this morning, who was saying that he doesn't believe that this is going to go away anytime soon. And so he's talking about how Newark Airport in particular, which, by the way, is one of the busiest airspaces in our area and the country, which is why you have to have such a unique experience as an air traffic controller. He was saying anyway that he recommends people fly out of LaGuardia or JFK if they have to fly out at all, because they don't want to have to deal with cancellations, right? So every day there's cancellations. But then you have people like Senator Schumer, Senator Andy Kim, Senator Cory Booker, and other officials who are like coming to the table now saying, well, there needs to be a solution. But it's not just a Band-Aid. I mean, this isn't just a Band-Aid problem.
Yeah, yes, and that's a discussion that we have all the time when we talk about our infrastructure or how do we tackle a problem. It might mean a long-term shortage, a long-term outage somewhere that would affect for a certain amount of time, and people want to be able to move around. And some hard calls have to be made now. Newark is still open at times. I think they're been ground stopped. There are planes flying in and out of there. There's that. But this is not going to be something that we could just fix by repairing something. It really seems like it needs an upgrade. And, those are different levels of conversation. We've seen it with transit. How do you fix a tunnel? Do you just do it maybe a 5-year repair? Or is it something that might require more of a long-term outage, which would certainly affect travel in the United States, since this is busy airspace, as you said.
Yeah. I know we had you on to talk about just the airports, but can I ask you about New Jersey Transit? Because we're talking about infrastructure and how there's problems with infrastructure. And then you look at NJ Transit, people called it the summer of hell, all this stuff. And now there's potential strike this week because of issues. What's that about?
Yeah, the headline from today is that both parties are in Washington. I checked in with them. The federal mediator called them back to have a discussion, sit them at the table or have them in other rooms and go back and forth. This is kind of where they are with that. This has been going on for years with NJ Transit. The locomotive engineers, which are about 450 employees within NJ Transit, they have been without a contract for going on 5 years. So this is the end of this, the process that's described in federal law, because they're railroad employees. So the union is allowed to set a strike deadline, and that's what they've done for Friday if something isn't resolved. Both sides were optimistic, but also trading barbs on Friday when I covered it. So I expect there to be an update today, kind of how did these meetings go. This is going to be a day-to-day thing. They don't have to strike on Friday. If
Yeah.
they do strike, they could be ordered back to work by the federal government too. So this is something to watch. In the meantime, it would be rough for NJ Transit train riders, because the buses can't handle the hundreds of thousands of riders that are.
That was my question. So if they do go on strike, which is a big what if, they could be mandated to go to work.
Yes, because that's the way the federal law
Gotcha.
governs kind of the railroad employees. They could be ordered back to work, and if they didn't, then there would be repercussions. People could be put in jail. There could be sanctions. The contract could be null and void from the beginning. It's like nobody wants that. Everybody says nobody wants to strike, but we understand a fair proposal for the workers. We went through that with the management too. They don't want to have to cause too much of a fair increase. Of course, NJ Transit will already have one every summer moving forward, but this was paid for. The NJ Transit proposal. It's just a matter of what the union membership wants to approve.
Gotcha. Okay, Greg, you look like you're hiding in an alleyway, so I'm gonna let you go cover your story.
It's a beautiful day here. I'm not there. I'll give you some of that. Yeah.
Okay. What are you
the
working on for
lighting
tonight?
is better over here. How about that?
Are you doing a transit story tonight?
Economic story. How about that? And I also go to one of the new movie studios that's open.
Oh, gotcha. Cool.
Film and TV production, so big in the area with jobs and stuff. So we'll be reporting on that.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing this. I know you're on the road, so appreciate you. Get back to work. Good stuff. Thank you, my friend.
Will do. All right.
All right, everybody. And so that's the thing. So there's obviously a lot going on with the Newark Airport story. We are inviting some of the political players on this week. Hopefully they come on to talk to us about that, including Senator Cory Booker and Senator Andy Kim. Andy Kim, by the way, was in Philadelphia to tour the facility there. Also was at Newark Airport. He had a scheduling snafu today that he couldn't come on our show. But hopefully we can talk to him about what exactly he saw, because he wanted to check out firsthand what the problems were. And of course, Greg and our team of New Jersey reporters, Jim Vassell, Katie Crowder, are going to stay on the New Jersey Transit strike story, because that is very big too. Even if they do go on strike, what does it look like in terms, if they may be mandated to go to work, how many trains are canceled or delayed, so on and so forth. So we're covering all things for you. But in the meantime, I'm Dan Mannarino. Enjoy the rest of your day.